ear is an organ that has many different structures in order for it to function. If we start with the outer part of the ear is called the pinna, and that's actually going to work as a funnel. And it's going to funnel sound into the ear canal or the auditory canal, which is here. And sounds are going to enter, and they're going to enter as vibrations. And those vibrations are going to, hit the tympanum or the eardrum. And that drum is going to vibrate. And then what happens as it vibrates, it's actually going to cause a vibration of three little bones. They're called ossicles. They're the anvil, stirrup, and hammer. And those vibrations are then going to cause the vibrations to enter the oval window, and those vibrations are then going to enter the cochlea, which is this spiral snail-shaped structure here. And the cochlea contains fluid and hair cells, which are going to vibrate and send impulses to the nerves. So the nerves from all those vibrations, they're going to transmit the signal to the brain, which is going to be interpreted. And that's where we get sound. The semicircular canals are attached to the cochlea here, and those are filled with fluid, and they actually serve a purpose for our balance. The round window, which we don't see here, is going to help equalize the pressure in the ear. All right, so sometimes you hear your ear, you feel your ears pop, and that's what's happening. And then this last structure is the eustachian tube. And this is an opening that connects the ear and the throat. So excess fluid can actually drain into that area. Now, hearing problems are divided into two different categories. And the first one is conductive hearing loss, which is actually mechanical and has to do with either those three tiny bones, the hammer, anvil, and stirrup, or the eardrum may not actually vibrate in response to the sound. And fluid also in the middle ear can cause hearing loss as well. The other type is sensory neural hearing loss. And sensory neural, think of neuron, has to do with the nerves. It's due to a problem with the inner ear. And that typically has to do with the tiny hair cells or nerve endings that move with the vibrations to transmit the signal to the nerves, and which go to the brain. And what happens, there's something, those hair cells are damaged or diseased, or they've died. So those nerve impulses aren't getting transmitted. With sound, we talk about different volumes, and we talk about sound in terms of decibels. Now, you can hear it pretty low decibels. Typically we're talking about, 20 decibels right now. And then it goes up. Heavy trucks are about 70. Music, is dangerous though, because what happens as you end up from loud all the way up to the top of this decibel chart, you're actually going to start damaging those nerve cells in the ear, so the signals aren't going to be transmitted. And as we get older, we're actually killing off some of those cells because we're exposed to more sounds, and depending on, what your occupation is, that can also have an effect as well. Now, if we look at the effect of sound on the eardrum, should load, we can see the different vibrations that are happening and what's actually happening inside the ear. So if we're looking at this, we'll reset this. You can see if we had sound coming in right now, sound is coming in the ear canal, and you see these bones. The malleus, incus, and stapes are the small bones, hammer, anvil, and stirrup. You see the vibrations actually hitting the eardrum, and they're causing vibrations of these bones, which is, moving the signal along this inner part of the ear. If we change the frequency, all right, and we increase it, you can see the movement change. So depending on the frequency the sound is traveling at, okay, you can see the frequency of the vibration there has increased, and so it also increased the amount of vibration in the ear. So that's where we get those sounds. Now, if we look at hearing aids, a hearing aid you'll see some people wearing because they have some hearing loss, and it doesn't restore hearing, but what happens is it's actually like a little microphone that's going to enhance the amount of sound that someone can hear so they can interpret it. If we move this forward, you can see, all right, here's the anatomy. This is your ear, um, just like we've been talking about. And then normal hearing, you have the wave and it goes through, and we have this vibration going. But what happens is, when you have some hearing loss, there's something getting reduced here. And so you don't have as much function in the middle ear. So the signal is not getting transmitted. And this is the sensorineural hearing loss, the second type that we talked about. So now we have something happening. So, the signal is getting transmitted, but it's not getting transmitted to the brain. All right. We don't have that clear enough sound. Now, if you can have a combination of the two, and they can occur simultaneously, and then that's called mixed. What happens with a hearing aid, you put a hearing aid in, and it's placed in the ear canal, and what happens, it amplifies the sounds to allow you to hear better. Air is going to come in, and it's picked up by that microphone, and then it's amplified by the sound processor in the hearing aid, and then it's the sound is delivered to the receiver, and then the louder sound waves vibrate the small bones here, the malleus, incus, and stapes, so the sound is actually heard. Okay, so then we have what looks like normal hearing again. Now, some of you may be asking, well, that's a hearing aid. I've seen things like cochlear implants before. Now, cochlear implants are used for people that have, you know, very severe hearing loss and nerve damage, and it's a sensorineural disorder. So remember, those tiny hairs are damaged. And, the cochlear implant has a lot of different, um, you know, uses, but it also depends on when it's implanted and how the patient decides to use it. So here, you have an electrode and you have a receiver, and the implant is actually going to be on the outer part of the ear. Again, we have our normal ear, how the ear works. The sound is being transmitted. Now, okay, we have hearing loss. This type of hearing loss is going to be the sensorineural. But with a cochlear implant, a hearing aid can just go right into the ear canal. A cochlear implant is actually going to have an incision into the skin, and it's going to be implanted so that it's going to actually go um, through the bone, and the receiver is going to be implanted, all right alongside um, the where you'd have brain tissue, which will then be able to direct sound into the ear. Okay, so it works very different than the hearing aid in the fact that it is implanted, and then the receiver and the electrode system is going to actually bypass the outer ear and go right into the inner ear to help somebody, get sounds. Once those sounds are received, though, then the patient has to learn how to um, interpret them and figure out what it is that they all mean. So with the ear, there's many parts to it, and the main part is that vibrations are going to be, that's how it's being interpreted, and then nerve signals are going to be sent to the brain to be interpreted so we know what it is that we're hearing.